your martial arts movie podcast.
I threw that shit before I walked in the room.
Featuring drunken Thai boxer, Will.
Too bad you will die.
The also drunken wrestler, Mark.
I said I don't want trouble.
And drunken karate master, Zero.
You've lost your balls.
And now,
Call. I know Kung Fu.
You know, baby.
Fists of Fail. I think it's time to replace my my cup. I think it's running out of... I think it's the end of his lifetime. He's starting to see cracks in it. Or maybe it's like a ghost who's haunting my cutlery. Ooh, scary things. Halloween. Ooh.
Very, very loose tie-in or intro to our episode, but sure.
Yeah, something about
spookiness.
vampires. Woo.
I mean, maybe you should have said your cup sucks, so you need to get a new one.
I don't know if you guys are watching us on YouTube, you'll see that I always have this cup at hand. This very silly looking pig butt that's on screen right now.
I talk to you once a week, and I don't ever recall seeing that cup, so I don't think anyone else would notice.
Right, but we're not talking about pig butts today. We are talking about today's our Halloween episode finally, and we're talking about two movies to continue with the tradition that we started kind of last year with the horror themes. Last year, we did Mr. Vampire, right? The first one?
We did do Mr. Vampire, the first one. That is correct.
Yeah. And now we're talking about two movies that kind of spun off of that. And it's kind of hard for me to call any of them sequels because they're not related at all. One of these is an actual, like, it pays homage to Mr. Vampire, and then it's just Mr. Vampire 4. so we got
sequel
two
by name only.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think any of the sequels have anything to do with each other whatsoever. They're like there's very little tie-in.
Yeah, I think they just took returning. They took the same actors from the first one. They kept on going with the series, Mr. Vampire 4 or Mr. Vampire Saga. Where it's sometimes referred to. I think this is the first one he decided not to do. Because I thought maybe he wasn't in it because he passed away, but then I realized that this is 88, and he passed away 97, I believe, Wen Qingying.
Yeah,
infamous Mr. Vampire. Yes,
the very iconic face. Yeah, I mean, well, it's a completely different movie, and I think maybe tonally it's a little bit more on the campier, cheesier side, and it's definitely gonna feel that way when you compare it to the other movie we're talking about today, called Rigor Mortis, which I would definitely want to talk more in detail because that movie's great. But the reason why we're talking about two movies today is because neither one of them have too much action in them, but I think both movies are worth talking about.
So, if you listen to our Mr. Vampire episode, we spoke about how there's a lot of action going on, and there's a lot of, I guess, kind of fighting, but it's not in the way that we like to break down fights, where it's choreography of two people, duking it out hand to hand, foot to foot, in Mr. Vampire, and then in this Mr. Vampire 4, there's a lot of evasion going on, like the characters need to get away from the vampires. It's a lot of Chin Karlok dodging, these supernatural beings, and there's choreography behind it, but he's not really doing martial arts to kind of take them out. I mean, sometimes he's trying, but they're just too powerful.
Well, yeah. That's what happens when you have a supernatural deity or supernatural element in your movie. Like you can't really fight them, with brute force alone. You kind of have to just avoid or like do what you can to just get out of there.
Well, they try. They try so much to brute force the final vampire in this movie. It's just ridiculous the lengths they keep on escalating to, and that's part of the fun of it. The Mr. Vampire 4. We were watching it, and the whole time we were thinking, I don't think this is a really good candidate. But we kept on watching it. I was really like fixated on this movie. I was surprised because it was 45 minutes of The Odd Couple, like two old Chinese men just bickering with each other.
Well, expand on that, Zero. It's plot time. Zero, your favorite part. What is the plot of Geung Si Sok Sok, which translates to Uncle Vampire, which is what Mr. Vampire 4 is. So what is the plot of that movie?
So Mr. Vampire 4, it sounds like a strange joke where it's like, what do you get when you combine a Buddhist priest or a Buddhist monk and a Taoist priest?
Do they walk into a bar?
When they are neighbors, and yeah, you can imagine the hilarity that ensues from that. But yeah, like I mentioned, it's like 45 minutes of neighbor bickering, quarreling, jokes being played on each other. And then at that 45-minute mark, I don't know, like they're some sort of royalty.
The plot happens.
Yeah, they're transporting the body of a vampire to be inspected at the palace, and the vampire breaks out. Surprise, surprise, and everybody has to deal with it.
Yes, and that's how the Odd Couple finally they learn to team up essentially at the very, very end of the film. But that 45 minutes at the very beginning of the film, I don't think is as bad as, on paper it sounds, right? It's like, it's 45 minutes. Basically half of the movie is just bickering and just two people just not getting along with one another. The plot hasn't started at all up to this point. And when we've resolved, kind of gotten to the halfway part of the movie, but it's actually weirdly entertaining. It's not even, it's a lot of slapstick comedy, a lot of like very in your face, kind of humor, but I don't know. I did actually find a lot of enjoyment out of this.
I think that's where it works because I don't know why, what's his name? Anthony Chan. I don't understand why he hates the other guy, Wu Ma, I believe his name is. I don't get the bickering there, but I guess we just kind of have to assume like, okay, it's there for some reason.
Yeah.
And you're correct. You would think you would not find any of this interesting, but it's kind of polarizing how much he hates him. So he's doing everything he can to kind of annoy him or get rid of him. Meanwhile, there's Chin Karlak, who is his Sifu. And he's kind of playing a little bit of the comic relief, a little bit of the the wide-eyed young apprentice, who's also there's like a little bit of romantic intentions with the neighbor's new apprentice.
Oh boy,
I forgot her name. Yeah, it sounds a little bit complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there are moments in the movie because it's what, a late 80s film. There are moments wherein one of the characters is being controlled kind of like in a voodoo spell. And because it's the 80s, we're just thinking, oh no, there's so much. We're just anticipating there to be like sexual harassment on screen. And it just keeps on not subverting our expectations. I'm like, oh, okay. But we just kept thinking it was going to happen. We kept
thinking that. Yeah, it never goes there. The worst it gets is the vampire with the long fingernails is like grabbing at her butt at one point. But it's innocent. Yeah, this is kind of family friendly. It's well lit, like the first Mr. Vampire. It's a very, very well lit horror film. Like horror in like quotations, I guess.
Well, we're gonna have to take what you just said and use that as like a central theme for like the majority of Hong Kong Chinese general horror films. For the most part, they are kind of like that. They kind of shy away from the horror, like going too far down the deep end. And that's why we can talk about rigor mortis later. But yeah, there's, in terms of the horror elements in the Mr. Vampire series, and mind you, we're only talking about the second time. We're talking about the Mr. Vampire series for the second time. This is only the fourth movie. There are small little moments where there's like horror, but for the most part, it just plays up on the comedy, and that's really all it is, right? I mean, I think they played up a little bit of it. I think there was a little bit of Evil Dead reference, kind of, or like homage to it when Chingalok and Lolita Lee are inside one of the houses, and they're kind of booby trapped the place, and then all of a sudden a hand pops out of the floor and grabs Chingalok and pulls him down to the floor, and then you see the vampire's face just like emerge from the ground, and basically it looks just like it's straight out of Evil Dead. And then Lolita Lee takes a bench and tries to hit him like whack-a-mole. I don't know. I thought that was...
the infamous wooden stool as a weapon in every Hong Kong movie.
Right. But yeah, like I mean, I don't think we can really break down too much of the action in either movie, or like this one in particular. But there are some good sequences, especially since we have Chingalok, who is ex Jackie Chan stunt team, and we talked about him in the past. Mind you, I don't know if we've ever mentioned it in any of our episodes, but Chingalok is the younger brother of Chin Siu Ho, who is the lead of the original Mr. Vampire and the lead in Rigor Mortis.
Okay,
so they have a family tie.
Right. After when I was watching this, and then I watched Rigor Mortis, I thought they were the same person, but I didn't realize that he's the younger brother. Is that who he is?
Yeah, he's the youngest.
Okay. I was like, man, they look. His older brother just has the mustache. I was like, oh, he grew. He got older. He grew a mustache, but no, he's actually the older brother. Got it.
And remember, Chin Siu Ho is one of the characters in Fist of Legend. He was one who fought Jet Li. He's like another one of the students or like former friends of Jet Li's character. Yep. But so we have like lineage here. So Chin Siu Ho is not in this installment, the fourth one. His younger brother plays an unrelated character, and again, there's no connection to the original Mr. Vampire, which is fine. So that's why I don't think we needed to talk about number 2 or 3 in this series, because apparently you said that one of them is just like a straight up comedy, and one's like very much like a kid's film, right?
Yeah, I believe in the second film they introduce like a family of vampires, and it gets a little more kid friendly. So I was like, I don't really want to see that one, even though Yoon Bio's in it. Apparently, he doesn't even do any martial arts, which a lot of people were disappointed by. So, and then I don't remember what the third one was going to be about. But then I saw this, and then so I saw Rigor Mortis first, and I loved that. And then I just kind of stumbled upon this movie, and I was like, oh, maybe we should just make it like a post Mr. Vampire sort of discussion where it's no longer a Lam Ching Ying. It's kind of like his legacy, almost like what he created. Like they're even though he was I believe he's technically still alive during this, but they decided to go on without him. But this is what he started, and they kind of went on from there.
Right. The only recurring character from the first movie is not character, but a performance or cast member is Anthony Chan, who I don't think is playing any sort of related character to his performance in the first movie. I think he was like a close friend of Lam Ching Ying in the first film, but I mean he wasn't like, I don't think he was like a martial arts / vampire slayer like master in that movie. So maybe there's a connection there. I didn't really pay attention to like the names. Maybe like they're not supposed to be the same character. Maybe they are, but for the sake of the story, it doesn't matter.
I can't remember what he was. I want to say maybe he was just another Taoist priest that we saw in the background, or had he had a few lines. But I can't recall. It's been a little bit since I've seen the first movie.
Right. It doesn't matter. Well, what you're in it for is for the comedy, and the first half actually does work really well. The characters are kind of just very basic. They're just in it to set up like the hilarity that ensues between the two. Some of the pranks that they play on one another can get a little bit nasty. Like Wu Ma, his character like gets his teeth ripped out of his mouth. Like that's not a prank anymore. That's like straight up assault.
Yeah. And then he retaliates by wanting to blow him up. Well, actually, he retaliates by
doesn't.
putting like a tiny stick of dynamite in his mouth to try and blow up his teeth. Very, very Looney Tunes. Now that I think about it.
Right. Yeah. There's the slapstick level is there to try to like mitigate a lot of the horror elements in there. And then okay, so at the halfway point, the vampire is introduced. Fat Chung is in the movie. He shows up halfway through, and then we get a little bit of his like martial arts prowess in the film too. Not too much because again, you only show so much when you have a supernatural monster like you're stomping around.
Right.
And
I mean, a lot of that martial arts too is they can only do so much when you're essentially fighting like a brick wall because you can't punch through him or you can't slice through him as they show in the movie. Like they try to, do double axes on him and it just goes nowhere. They try to stab him, it goes nowhere.
Yep.
So in order to do moves and combinations, on screen, you hit through the other performer. When you can't do that here, when it's literally just like hitting a wall, there's visually that's kind of limiting you a little bit.
yeah, it's literally like fighting a rubber wall, right? Because you hit it and it just bounces right back. It's basically there's a lot of recoil and there's no impact because that thing is unstoppable. It's like the T-1000 of sorts. So it's just like an effort and futility in order to like actually try to hurt it. It's just a matter of like, how do you stun it long enough so you can get away just so you don't get bitten by this thing or like stabbed through by this thing. And
well, what a lot of characters end up doing is there's a lot of grappling in this movie.
yeah.
There's
There
like
has to be.
so much grappling. Like there's like 4-on-1s at the very end. Like everyone is just trying to grab him by the legs, grab him by the arms to immobilize this way overpowered vampire. And I mean, he's overpowered for a reason. And it works because it feels, this movie is never scary, but you do get a sense that of how are they going to take this guy out? Yeah, there is a slight sense of direness because you understand that he is way too powerful for these characters.
Yeah. I mean, that's the super vampire because not only was it like pegged to be like this ultra demon, but it was struck by lightning, so now it's extra powerful. And the talismans that they use on him don't work at all. I mean, the same ones that they apply on other vampires, and they just immobilize them and control them. Actually, there is one scene I really liked, and this is the most we get in terms of more grounded fighting. I mean, it's not grounded because there's vampires in it, and we're still using vampire invulnerability logic in the movie. But the scene where Chingalok and Lolita Lee are basically fending for themselves inside one of the houses, and there's 3 vampires going after them. I thought this was pretty well done. It goes on for a while. In fact, we're talking about the very end of the film.
Right. It's not, again, like I mentioned, it's not martial arts in the sense where we like to break it down, but he is defending, himself against like these 2 vampires, and he's there's like a point when a vampire like just torpedoes itself. It's just like, what happened there?
Yeah. I mean, they used a dummy, and it's straight. Oh, whatever, sure. And just so for those who don't remember or maybe need a refresher on the Gyeongsi or the Jiangxi, the Chinese vampire, they move by chopping or hopping around. They do like very rigid movements. So a lot of it like kind of works. Like even the fact that like it torpedoed itself across the room, like okay, that makes sense. That it would move that kind of way. And again, we'll talk more about that when we talk about rigor mortis. But that fight between him and the 3, I thought this was a good showcase for Chingalok to like show his athleticism again because he's a great stunt person. Not always the best fighter. But here it's like a good example of like how we can utilize him without like doing crazy amount of choreography because he doesn't have to fight. He just has to dodge and look like he's getting hurt. And he does take a lot of abuse. in this particular fight or sequence because he's a stunt person, and that makes a whole lot of sense.
If you like drop kicks, oh man, there's a lot of drop kicks in this movie too because they can't just kick these vampires away because of the power behind them. They have to fucking jump and drop kick. Like everybody tries to drop kick the vampires in this movie. It's it's a recurring theme I noticed. In this film.
Good on Lolita Lee for doing that too, because there's one moment she does that as well. I'm like, damn, I don't think that was a stunt person. I think that was actually just her going for it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so one thing I wanted to point out, since just to jump back like a little bit to the beginning, there is a moment when Chin Karlok is getting, fake reprimanded by Uma, and there's some. It's a little bit of stunt work going on, but there's this amazing shot where the camera's just low to the ground. He does a forward flip and lands on his hands and his elbows right in front of the camera and gets up, and you see him. And we were both like, oh, no.
That's a great shot. It's such a good action shot. You see everything in perfectly framed. You can see like how much he recoiled from hitting the ground. You can tell it's wire assisted because he floats for a little too long, but that's fine. Like the fact that they had that much precision, it just all did was just heighten the effect of him landing on the ground. It's like, and even more props to him for giving a great physical performance because he really emoted like how much that hurt, and he continued his dialogue right like immediately after hitting the ground.
Yeah, I think that's what was most impressive. Like they didn't cut; he continued the scene after that.
Yep. That's all. They didn't make too much of a fuss of it. It was like, all right, you got hurt. All right, continue. Let's keep going. These are professionals here. But yeah, at the end, that whole scene where they're Chin Karlok and Lolita Lee are fending for themselves. It goes on and on, but in the best way possible. Like you can tell like how dire the whole situation is, and like they're trying their hardest to defend themselves. You get a lot of good stunt work from Chin Karlok, and it's not until Anthony Chan and Wu Ma show up where they basically do away with the zombies or vampires, and then not too long after that's when we get our final showdown with like the master vampire. And this goes on for so long. I don't remember the first movie as well, but I think it like kind of beats it in terms of like how relentless this final fight is. It just goes on and on, but I don't know if it's in a bad way. I just say like it just does not end though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I would agree with you. It keeps on going, but in a good way. I liked. Not the very, very last set piece because they're just back in the house again. I like the set piece before that when they're kind of in the morgue with all the other Chinese jumping vampires, but they have the talisman on their forehead, so they're not active, let's say. And it's a funny setup because they put caramel all over the floor to try and prevent the hopping vampire from getting to them, which is such a very like Home Alone
like
type
Tom
of
and Jerry
logic.
kind of
Tom and Jerry, yeah. And it's just funny because obviously the vampire gets around that. They then walk on the caramel and it just turns into them like, oh, we're stuck. Oh, I can't believe we fell for our own trap.
Right. Well, that's I kind of like that. It's like they had a plan. It didn't go as expected, and instead of like turning this into like a terrifying experience, I'm like, oh, but you like instead of having that, you still feel like the direness that the characters are going through, and I kind of like that. It's like, oh, okay, but like at the same time, it's very slapsticky, right? Because the vampire is just kind of like jumping around, and it's very like. One track mind, and it's gonna just be hopping towards them, and basically the characters are kind of like clumsily trying to avoid the vampire, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Did you watch Chinese jumping vampire movies when you were younger?
Oh, absolutely.
And I guess were you ever afraid of them at any point?
No. Dude, it hops around. it's.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm trying to think of like maybe maybe this is supposed to be kind of like a children's horror action film where that's for adults, yes, not scary at all, but maybe it's just right for children because it is vampires. The makeup isn't as horrifying. There isn't gore, but there is that element of danger. There is that element of
sure.
some of impending doom because they can't stop the vampire. So I'm wondering if maybe like youngsters who saw this might have actually been afraid.
I might be the wrong person to ask, but like I mean, guess we'll talk about the cultural influence of like the Chinese vampires, just for both of these movies because it kind of makes sense to talk about that. I mean, the Chinese vampire could be referred to as a vampire. It's actually, I think it's way more accurate to call them zombies because they're corpses. They're not like I think a vampire. I mean, I think of I don't know like kind of almost like a living being, in a very able-bodied kind of way. Chinese vampires. You're
thinking more of like the European vampire lore.
Well, yeah. I mean, like if we're going to compare them at all, it makes way more sense to call them zombies. I actually think they resemble a zombie way more. Like,
well, yeah, the vampires in this series, to my knowledge, they're kind of mindless almost.
Yeah, so. Yeah, they're mindless. Yeah. They're corpses, and they infect each other by biting or putting their mitts into anybody. So they're way more adjacent to like a zombie. I think the closest I ever got scared by a Chinese vampire is, I mean the less hopping around that they do. I think the hopping around thing has never been very very scary. It's just kind of weird to me, but it makes sense because it's what happens when you have rigor mortis. You can't move your limbs and stuff the way that an able-bodied like living person can. So that's I guess for me that doesn't make any sense, but I think maybe that could be a good segue to talk about rigor mortis. And well, before we do that, let's wrap up Mr. Vampire 4. So yeah, at the end of the movie, they defeat the thing. Well, I mean, they try everything that they can, right? To
they even get Cloud's like giant Buster
the Buster
sword.
Yeah.
Yes.
Apparently, Anthony Chan has 2 of them in his house.
He's got a Buster sword and an even like bigger one. Yeah. That oh man, the way he brandishes that for the camera is perfect.
I don't know if they're doing like a Popeye reference when Anthony Chan prays to the gods and then he basically becomes
his chest blows up.
Yeah. I can see like that felt like the most childish thing or like the most kid, like geared towards kids thing I've seen in the whole film. It doesn't last very long. They're basically trying every method possible. It wasn't until they get to the very end where they have the great idea of like, let's blow him up from the inside. So you grab everything inside the house and just shove it down its mouth, including
they grab all the
poisons. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they literally just grab like everything possible, including a live snake.
But it's a dummy that they're putting in its mouth.
Yeah, I know. The dummy head is fake, but they're shoving this actual
the real snake. Yes.
Yeah, they're like really jamming it in there. I'm like, man, what's on the other side of that mask? But yeah, like the thing blows up, and then the movie just hard cuts on like a semi-comedic note because Chingalok wants to get some from Lolita Lee. And that's Mr. Vampire 4. It's not heavy on the martial arts, but there is enough action where I think it's kind of worth talking about. It's notable because I think it plays up a lot of the action comedy, but it's majority a comedy, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah, you need to. I mean, it's great because the comedy stuff actually works. I was never bored with it, even upon my second rewatch. I was still laughing at it. I was like, oh, this is still cute. This is still fun. I think it's the charisma and the chemistry of Anthony Chan and Wu Ma together. I think that works really well. And once you get to the 45-minute mark, you do get action, not martial arts in the sense that we like and how we break it down, but there is action. So it's not like there's nothing there.
Right. And Yunhua is also in the movie, which we did not talk about.
Oh, right. The
Playing the
the-
ultra effeminate assistant to the kid emperor or kid kid king
Oof.
or whatever.
That does not age very well.
No. Do you like it when he turns into a zombie? His zombie voice is just flat out a woman.
A woman's voice,
Yeah.
yes, and he is pining after Chin Karlok with kisses.
Yep. Because
Oh
80s.
boy, they do a lot of gay scare stuff. So if you're gonna watch it, just be prepared for that. It's not that bad.
Yeah, we've seen worse.
We've
definitely
worse.
seen worse.
Yeah, we've seen worse. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to go into this movie with the open mind of like the times. All right. So that's Mr. Vampire 4, aka Mr. Vampire Saga. Don't know why it's called that. And then now we're gonna jump all the way to when did Rigor Mortis come out?
2013.
Yeah, man. Okay, I actually really enjoyed Mr. Vampire 4, but I think the thing that's fresh in my mind right now, and I really want to talk about this, and I'm semi rushing to it, is Rigor Mortis. The Chinese title is just Gongxi, which is just vampire. That's just the flat out title. And I fucking love this movie. This is great. This is a fantastic film. I'm kind of glad you recommended this because I watched this. I'm like, holy shit, this is great. I already said great twice, but
So what's Rigor Mortis about, Will?
I guess my turn to do plots.
Yep.
I don't want to give away the ending at all in this episode. I don't think it would be a disservice to the film. I think that, but I can give away other plot details, right? Like basically everything until the very, very end, and I'll just do a hard cut. The story is about Qin Xiu Ho, who I don't know if he's supposed to be playing the same, like playing himself essentially, right? Because
I had an inkling that maybe that's what they were doing, but they didn't want to outright say that he's just playing himself because the character is a Hong Kong actor, like maybe retired Hong Kong actor. Yeah.
Well, so there's an actual scene where he is basically in his apartment about to commit suicide, and he just empties out his briefcase, and he has all these garments, and I think they're just supposed to be like props or like set design as costumes.
I think they're costumes from his prior
movies.
roles.
Yeah, and I just made the assumption like, okay, yeah, he's supposed to be playing like a fictionalized version of himself. Yeah. Basically in a much more depressing and somber, like setting. So Rigor Mortis is a horror film. It's not really that scary, but it's in the classical setting. It's defined as a horror film because it is not a comedy at all. But weirdly enough, it is supposed to be paying homage to the Mr. Vampire series, not Saga, because Saga is number 4. And it takes itself very seriously. It's a very dreadful kind of experience. Like there's a somber tone throughout the whole experience, throughout the whole film. And we have a couple recurring cast members. Anthony Chan's in the movie. We have Fat Chung from the Spooky Encounters, and also he was in Mr. Vampire 4. He's also in the film. And then we have some like other faces that you might recognize too. Carl Wise in the film as well. Basically, every character is just another attendee or inhabitant of this haunted apartment complex, and there's just ghosts just walking around, basically like spirits that are lurking everywhere. And so I guess the main driver for the story is that one of the tenants there actually dies, and then basically his body is taken up by Fat Chung and the widowed wife, and they're trying to bring him back to life, basically setting it up so that he can become a vampire or a zombie. And it doesn't happen right away. It builds until the end of the film, and there is genuine dread and like fear that this thing is going to get unleashed. And by the end of the film, when it actually does, it's genuinely, I want to say terrifying, but like you genuinely believe that this thing is a menace. And that's where I think the Chinese vampire myth could work. And this is how you would do it. It's not hopping around all the time looking like a goofy little thing, like springboard thing.
Yeah, they try to incorporate some of the hopping. Like once the vampire is activated or becomes alive, he does have the ability to kind of like pounce.
Yeah.
There's like an action scene later where you can kind of see him pouncing, and then they do like a more visual moment where I think what they did is they filmed the actor underwater, and he's literally just hopping down a hallway, but you can see like the flowing robes and everything like that. Very, very atmospheric.
Right.
Going on.
Yeah, I don't actually understand that scene, those insert shots at all. Like, where was it? I don't think they set it up in the movie very well. But those are just insert shots. Maybe this is in someone's head. Yeah, and then also alongside with the Jiangxi, who's played by Richard Ng, who was in other films that we've talked about. We also have like two spirits that are also wandering the halls as well. One who committed suicide, and the other one stabbed herself to death by accident, by trying to kill a rapist. So again, very dark subject matter for a Hong Kong film, a Hong Kong horror film. But yeah, there's a lot going on. All the characters basically have their own little story that kind of ties in all together and kind of marries in the very end with Qin Xiu Ho's story, because he is essentially the main character, but like he kind of like takes a little backseat when the Chinese vampire story like really gets to like its peak, and then he kind of disappears in the movie, and then he reappears at the end again.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't actually bothered by that. I noticed it, but man, I gotta say, Paul Hee Ching, the actress who played Auntie Mui, like, oh man, her performance was awesome.
Yeah.
Like that, her grieving scene, that one shot grieving scene. I was like, oh my god, like so, like emotional, so powerful.
Yeah. And
all the other actors and actresses too, like they just helped to suck you in because. Yeah. Like you said, there's so much dread. There's an aura of evil that is in this apartment, and you can feel it. You know something's wrong. You know there's something haunting this place, and the people are trying to get on with their lives, and they do like during the daytime where things are always safe, but then at night, you know something's coming. It's you're just waiting for it.
Right. Good on the two recurring characters, like the repeat characters, and not characters, but actors. Anthony Chan does a pretty stellar job too, like because he doesn't play the ultra comedic character, right? Because he can't. Because this is not that kind of film. But I think he does a pretty good more subtle version of like what he would normally play in another film, and I do appreciate that. Like he's a little bit like a laid back, like doesn't take anything too seriously, but at the same time, like he knows the severity. Like he sees the ghosts, but he doesn't treat it as like take it lightly. But he gives a lot of respect to the ghosts. And then there's Fat Chung, who plays almost like a villainous character. He's basically the one who's summoning the spirits at all, or like making like a conduit for them to take over. And like again, like he also does a fantastic performance as well. And I guess we could talk about the fighting now, right after talking about this horror film.
Right. It's not even fighting, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's like moments of possession where people have to try and subdue a character, and there are martial arts being used, but like that's like the extent of it, really.
It's weird. I don't know if I love it or hate it. Or maybe I'm just somewhere in between. The idea of everything that we talked about before kind of makes the movie work. If it's just a straight up horror movie, it could have just stayed that way. But as soon as you throw in a bunch of fighting, it shouldn't work, but it's kind of permissible when you watch this film. I think.
Well, they take the fighting seriously. It's not floaty. It's I don't think there's really any wire work. Well, when the supernatural elements come in, there's a little bit of wire work, but I think because you understand how dire things are, you can kind of forgive that people are using martial arts in like a horror movie, right?
Yeah. It's not it's not super choreographed martial arts, right? But you can tell that there was some thought into making this choreography look a little bit fanciful, and that's where it kind of sucks me out of it. But at the same time, like I give it a pass because the rest of the film is so engaging. I think towards the end, when I don't even actually understand it, I don't know if I fully understand it when Shin Soo-ho is fighting the eventual vampire at the end. I thought that was kind of, I don't know if I liked it or not. I'm actually on the fence about that. You know, it feels
it was more of a struggle, right?
Struggle,
and
yeah.
then without giving away too much, the different elements of the earth were involved, so it was changing the environment because of that. And slight spoiler, but there's some mud wrestling.
No, that's not a spoiler at all, but yeah, sure, let's just call it that. I think it worked better when you just believe that this vampire was just that much more terrifying and much more powerful than anything that they can do to, you know, defend themselves. One thing that we should mention is that since it is set in the modern time, it's not a period piece or whatever, a lot of the characters, they've never actually like interacted with the vampire before, including Anthony Chan, who's like descended from a vampire hunting lineage. So even he's kind of like inexperienced with the fighting this thing off. So I kind of believe it when when he doesn't actually know exactly what to do to fight the vampire. Like it is that much more serious when they're encountering it. So I think all those things add up to making the Chinese vampire figure much more scary in the film, even though it isn't scary, but A for effort, right?
Yeah, it's not scary. I mean, maybe because we've seen so many horror movies, we're just kind of I don't know, numb to that kind of thing.
Yeah,
you can feel the dread though. You can feel how things might be scary to somebody else though. It's weird because it's a horror movie, but it's extremely emotional. Like there's like a lot of there's a lot of talk of loss and just how the characters are dealing with it in their own way. Like I think Shin Soo-ho's I can't remember if they exactly explain it, but his family has died, and that's particularly why he wants to commit suicide, right?
It's either they died or they left him. Either or, I think it's fine that they left it ambiguous. Yeah. Like he's just down in the dumps and he's ready to end his own life. And
but then there's a lot of elderly in the building too, and then with the Auntie Mui character, they're just all dealing with loss, and it's just it's kind of a depressing movie, but without hammering like teenage angst over your head. It's more mature than that.
I do appreciate that. I do believe that everyone has their genuine struggles there, and these are problems that all the characters are facing that they can't just. A lot of the times you'll look at a movie that's like, characters are living in a place haunted by ghosts, and the movie does explain both like explicitly and implicitly. Like when Anthony Chan's like asked, like, why does he just leave? He sees ghosts. Like, well, they said, and he replies, well, ghosts are everywhere. Like you might as well just stay in one place and just like make do with it and like be friendly with them.
Right. That was a great moment because you realized like this is just how the world is for them. Like you can't escape ghosts. They're always there. So just try to. It's like they're saying you have to make the best of the situation, and this is a shitty situation.
Yeah. yeah. It's it's a very morbid way of looking at things. But then there's the implicit implications, right? Everyone is going through some sort of grief or has their own trauma, right? Kara Y, for example, like she has to live with the fact that she walked into basically murder-suicide scene and realized that her husband was trying to rape someone, and then that woman basically killed herself and killed him. And she went crazy over that. She can't just leave. She can't even process her own emotions anymore. And then basically everyone in the apartment complex has their own grief and things to deal with. But man, towards the end of the film, it just becomes a bloodbath. Everyone dies. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but I mean, it becomes a relentless. Like I was not expecting the kid to die that way. It is some of the most brutal imagery of a child being killed on screen I've ever seen. Without showing the killing, the aftermath is probably the most I've ever seen. Really glorified on screen. Like you see bits of him all over the floor. I don't know. I was like, oh, this is very unsettling. But it kind of makes sense because in this movie, no one's gonna be spared, right? So
yeah, that's the idea.
But I don't know what else to say about this. The fighting is okay. The Fat Chung and Anthony Chan, they do fight the spirits halfway through a movie when they are possessing Chin Siu Ho, and I thought that was okay. That's fine. Towards the end, when Richard Ng's character, who's now a zombie, is just hopping around, I don't know. They obviously have to use CG to make it look like he's just jumping all over the place like a frog, and I've never seen that. I kind of wish they didn't include that at all, because I think it would have worked better if it just all they did was have the lights flicker, and then literally when the lights come back on, it's in another spot, right?
That could have been a way of doing it.
Yeah, because the scene was already doing that. The lights were just flickering on and off, and you could have made that a lot more effective, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. So one thing I just wanted to mention. So the fighting, there's not a lot of it, but the fighting in the last moment between Chin Sui Ho and the vampire, it's kind of like a wrestling match, right? They're just really throwing each other all over the this hallway, and then it turns into mud wrestling because suddenly the floor becomes goo, and they're just trying to subdue each other there. So it's not martial arts choreography in the traditional sense, but there is choreography in that they needed to memorize his movesets in order to throw each other around correctly.
I don't think it was in their intention to make me laugh, but when Anthony Chan has his hands buried into the artifact that's rotating, he has to keep his hands on it, otherwise the incantation would wear off. So it starts twisting too much, and it starts to rotate his hands, his forearm.
Yeah.
It looks really goofy. I know what they're trying to. I mean, they're trying to make it seem incredibly painful, but I don't know. It just came off as kind of silly to me, especially when you see the bone pop out of his elbow. I don't know. I thought that was kind of.
Well, it's better CGI than Marco Zaror's floppy leg penis.
That's true.
So I'll give it that.
Yeah, and then I've never seen this in the Chinese zombie lore, or maybe I did have, and I don't know. When they all get blown out the window and the sunlight comes out, the vampire bursts into flames. I thought Chinese vampires were not afraid of that. I don't actually remember. Sometimes it's inconsistent with that, especially since Mr. Vampire 4 had them out in the daylight. So.
Well, no. Well, actually, that is true. He's technically in Mr. Vampire 4. He's leading them back to the house, so they were technically out during the day. I mean, I guess lore is kind of just up to whomever is writing it, because they kind of throw away things. So going back to Mr. Vampire 4, remember how they sense humans by breath from the first movie? completely thrown away in part 4, right?
Right. Yes, that's true. But they have it in rigor mortis. There's an actual scene where Fat Chong covers Anthony Chan's mouth, and it's like a Jurassic Park moment where the zombie in the background just takes a moment and then just carries on. There's like a sense of tension there, and it does a really good job at that. It almost does a pretty good job of making the Chinese vampire scary. And this is what I wanted to get at, which is I imagine the original myth of the vampire, the Chinese vampire, prior to the movies, and like we're talking about like old school, is closer in line with like what you see in this movie. Like people took it more seriously in the 80s, early 90s, when Mr. Vampire made the vampire, like the Chinese vampire, popular again. I don't know if they were going for scary. They just made it like a iconic thing for movies again. But in terms of being closer in line with the original myth and making it seem like a terrifying menace, I don't think anything could top this. Like this is a pretty good interpretation of like what I think a scary Chinese vampire should be. So I don't know. This is a really good experience, and the way that movie ends, I'm very glad. I didn't need it. I actually wouldn't mind if the movie just ended where we just left off and we last talked about it.
Like a more dour ending.
I mean, both endings are pretty dour. I mean, like the movie's just dour altogether. But like the zombie dies, and then the movie could just cut right there. But there's more that happens afterwards, and you didn't need it. But I was like, okay, I'm happy with this too. This works as well. If it the way that it actually did end. Yeah. But rigor mortis. I like that they chose that title too, because I mean that's what happens when I think that's more appropriate to call a vampire.
Well,
a Chinese vampire.
That's why the Chinese jumping vampires jump that way, because the body has rigor mortis. They technically can't move their limbs so easily, so that's why they hop with their arms straight out, right?
Well, that's why it doesn't make any sense for it to hop around like a frog or do choreography at all.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of have to just give it a pass at the end, right? He's loosened up. He's all loose now.
He's warmed up. Yeah.
Rigor
mortis is great. And then I guess just very lightly, you watched another film, right, Zero?
I did. Yes. Vampire Cleanup Department, which came out in 2017, is also kind of like another homage to the Mr. Vampire series. Chin Sui Hoi is in it again. Richard Ng is there again, and I think they might be the only returning two. That it looks like just them, but it is a modern take on the Chinese jumping vampires. So they are in Hong Kong. It is more modern day than 2013's, and there's like a secret vampire cleanup department that anytime there's a Chinese jumping vampire, they come in and kind of dispose of everything and make sure that the general public doesn't get wind to what happened.
So it's like Men in Black meets... No, it's just Men in Black with the vampires.
Yeah, like Men in Black with vampires. Yeah, that could be a way of putting it.
Okay.
And then they get a new... Yeah, it is kind of like Men in Black. They get a new crew member. He's a young, impressionable kid. They teach him the ropes. And then somewhere later on, Mega Vampire shows up and they all have to come together to defeat him at the end. Yeah.
Of course.
This one has a little more martial arts in it than rigor mortis, but it's I think you can just kind of see the budget. It's pretty low budget.
Oh, okay.
They do more Karate Kid teaching moments where, you need to sweep up all these leaves, and he's like, "Why did you teach me to sweep the leaves? Why am I doing this all the time?" And it's like, "Aha! This is actually going to be used somewhere else." So. Yeah, unfortunately, not as much martial arts, but it is very fun and fan servicey. So if you're looking for additional, more modern Mr. Vampire stuff, you can't go wrong with this. There's a little too much romantic comedy stuff in it. It feels a little too modern in that it's just annoying sometimes. But it's cool.
Catered to certain. Yeah, okay.
Right. But like, if you like Hong Kong movies, you're seeing a lot of older Hong Kong actors, in these senior roles now. So it's cool that they're that they got them back again.
Cool. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't check this movie out, but maybe I'll give it a watch afterwards. It's more comedy, right? Like in general?
Much more romantic comedy. It's not scary at all. There's no horror. There's like a big-ish martial arts sequence at the end, but it's not. I can't say it's good choreography. They try. Oh, I think it takes place in the Police Story Mall.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I think
everything
that's
takes place
mall.
there.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Now I have to watch it because it took place in the Police Story Mall. All right, cool. I mean, we're very thorough today. We talked about 3 movies. I don't think we've ever done 3. But,
we did it last year for our Halloween bargain bin episode where we talked about
that's
shitty horror movies.
That's not the same. Like well, the first time. Well, wait. Would you even recommend Vampire Cleanup Crew Department?
If you're so I wanted to mention it because I think if you're a fan of the Mr. Vampire series, I think it's just a fun watch to see some of the actors again in like I mentioned, in more senior roles, kind of catering in to like a younger demographic, because this is definitely geared towards like a younger not like younger audience, like a modern audience, because they use a lot of modern technology. Sure. I don't know if the main character is like a famous younger actor. I'm sure maybe they probably tried to cast in order to get more people interested in it, but I would recommend it if you're a fan of Mr. Vampire stuff. If not, it's just romantic comedy with slight elements of martial arts and horror.
Okay. Well, according to Wikipedia, his name is Baby John Choi. Yeah. Okay, that's a very interesting name, but okay, cool. All right. I might check it out.
This was recommended to me by people online as I was looking for martial arts horror stuff. But everybody did note that there's not much martial arts. But if you're a fan of Mr. Vampire, it's a fun watch.
Cool. All right. I definitely want to check it out. But I'm pretty much riding on the high of the last 2 movies we just covered. So,
I would say you might be disappointed then, because I mean, rigor mortis is great. So if you went from rigor mortis to this, you might be like, ugh.
Well, it probably lives somewhere in between, right? Because Mr. Vampire 4, great movie. It's straight up. It's a straight up comedy, and then it's an entertaining comedy, obviously. And then there's rigor mortis, which is a straight up horror film. Again, not scary, but it in terms of filmmaking, it's a pretty damn, it's well shot. It's like the appropriate lighting. That's another thing why I failed to mention before. It's shot like a horror film. Like it has appropriate lights and such. Basically zero saturation. And the mood and atmosphere is so well done. So that's the other spectrum. I don't know where Vampire Cleanup Department lives. It's somewhere like smack dab in the middle, I'm guessing, right?
Of the 3, it's the worst, but that's only because I think the other 2 are really good movies. It shows in its budget and its writing that it is just not up to par with the other 2.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Like I said, it's for the fans. I think fans will like it. If you don't know anything about it, you might watch it and think like, oh, what's this?
All right. Well, I guess this is our Mr. Vampire tribute episode. I'm kind of glad we did this. I'm not sure if there's any other movies that are worth talking about. I feel like we kind of ended on a pretty high note, or like we talked about 2 pretty good films and one. Yeah, I guess okay. Yeah. So maybe if anyone's listening, if you guys would recommend the other ones. I know there's other films that Ricky Lau, the director of the original, was also involved in. So let us know. Or maybe we'll cover more Lam Ching-ying non-Mr. Vampire related films as well, because like he is known for playing those kind of roles. So I don't know. Zero. I mean, we normally do our recommend section, but yeah, you'd recommend both of them, right?
Oh yeah. I was surprised that I enjoyed Mr. Vampire Saga because even on second rewatch, I thought I was just going to kind of look at my phone and kind of look up every now and then, but I wound up rewatching the whole thing. And the first time we kept on questioning, man, like when are we going to get to the story? Although we were being entertained, this time I knew when the story was happening, so I was just able to soak in, all the slapstick odd couple comedy. So yeah, I recommend that. And then I watched Rigor Mortis on my own, not even thinking we were going to talk about it, but I liked it so much I recommended it to you to watch it. So there you go.
Right. Exact thoughts on Mr. Vampire 4. Thought that was great. It shouldn't work. I feel like I normally complain about that in other films, but because it's entertaining, you kind of forget about it. And then the actions, it's fun. It is generally fun. Not worth breaking down to the T, but still a good experience all in all. And then Rick and Mortis, wow, it really took me by surprise. I haven't seen a very good horror film come out of Hong Kong in quite some time, especially from in the supernatural department. I feel like a lot of Hong Kong supernatural movies are very. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's lame. I have yet to see a really good horror movie come out of Hong Kong. None of them have ever scared me, but this is the one that's like comes closest to like being like plays up with horror tropes in a good way, and it's just the level of filmmaking is pretty damn good. So yeah, go check out Rigor Mortis for sure. And anyone who's listening, if you guys have any recommendations for good horror movies out of Hong Kong, let me know, because oh boy, after 31 years, I still haven't found one.
I mean, yeah, it's not going to be Halloween in a few weeks, but I love horror movies. So yes, please send us horror movie recommendations.
All right. Starting our second podcast. Cool. That's what it sounds like.